right, here we go again. So we've got the next part of our train project is going to be the smokestack. So it's kind of what we see here in our design, what would, in theory, release the smoke from the train as it's burning. So what we've got on this one is we're going to work with this hole right there. If we look, got the dimensions for this, and the best way to kind of approach this, as you can see from these lines, this is kind of a section view of our smokestack. And anytime I see something that's kind of cylindrical in nature, I'm thinking about using the tool revolve, right? So I'm going to try to create this shape that we see with the diagonal lines cutting across it, create that shape, revolve it, and that should call it a day. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so one way that we can do this is I'm going to kind of create a section view of the train. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and come over here to section view, click on this little cube, section view, section plane, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this right in the middle. So I'm using that right plane, assuming that that's kind of the middle. If you are using my tutorials, that should cut it right through the middle. If not, you might have to create a mid plane in between your train there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, hit the check. And now if I look at the right side, I've got the initial hole to work off from. That'll give me some of the existing geometry to play with. All right, so I'm going to go back to my dimensions here, 0.25, and again, notice it's flat, and it'll go to the middle of that hole. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Start a new sketch on this plane, and this is already the right plane, so that's fine. And let's go ahead and use that use tool again to get this right edge. I'm going to do that. I'll go back to the line tool now and draw this one out. I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and mark it off here for now. Click up this way. And you know what? I'm going to take a peek at the shape again. All right, so that does line up. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go and bring this down. We can do that later, but let's keep it going. So the shape comes up, over. Let's go ahead and make that line continuing up this way, up, over. Kind of sits like this, if I remember correctly, and then comes down, connects. I believe that's kind of the shape. We'll obviously have to add some dimensions. I think I hit all of that there. Okay, so now it's just a matter of adding some needed dimensions. Okay, so another thing I'm going to kind of do here is I'm going to start a new line, and I'm going to start from the very tip here and draw this up. Okay, and I'm going to go and make this a construction line. So to do that, there's this tool right here, or you hit the letter Q, and that's going to represent the middle of that hole. I want to make sure things line up there. Okay, so now if I go back through, I'm going to hit the escape key a couple times to get out of that. Now if I'm dragging this thing around, I want to make sure that lines up to the middle. To do that, I'm going to use a vertical constraint. Let's go ahead and make this line up to that. That should drag that over. Okay, so ultimately, want to make sure these are all vertical if you didn't do that already. Also, these ones should be horizontal, so that should be horizontal to that. Make sure that lines up. This should be a horizontal line. That should be horizontal line. All right. So once we have that basic shape, we're really just adding dimensions to it. So let's go ahead and do that now. 0.25 is that first one, so a letter D to dimension. This first line should be 0.25. Okay, there's that. Next up, let's see, 1.5 to this little corner from the bottom. So from here to here is 1.5. And taking a second to load, think about. All right, there we go. I'm also noticing here that this actually is not quite lined up. So let's go ahead and do that as well. I think that one I'll use a coincident constraint. Let's line that up to here. Okay. And let's see what other dimensions I might be missing. That was 1.5, 1.75 from the bottom to the top. So dimension bottom to the top here. This is 1.75. And what else we got? Angle of 15 degrees. Okay, so angle is typically going to be measured from here to here, always between two lines. And in this particular case, let's see, it's 15 degrees from this vertical. Okay, so, I think I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to do a little bit of math. So knowing that this total is 90 degrees, if I make that 75, then that means compared to the vertical, that should be 15. All right, so that's how I'm going to do that. If you wanted to, another way potentially, I'll go ahead and delete this. Another way you could potentially do this is measure from this angle to a straight line like here, and I can make that 15 degrees as well. All right, whatever you think makes more sense to you looking at the math there. Okay, what else we got? We got, looking at this whole dimension, I've got 0.375 in diameter, and then we're treating this as like a counter bore. Okay, so that means the inner diameter is 0.375, the counter bore is 0.875. All right, so let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to do the dimension from, this is the counter bore, so from here to this construction line I made. Okay, again, notice if I keep this dimension right now, this is going to just measure between the two lines. If I drag it to the other side, it'll create a diameter dimension instead. All right, and then this is for the counter bore is 0.375, or that's sorry, 0.875 for the hole. So this is 0.875. Okay, I'll fix that right now. Just go ahead and drag this out. So that goes actually a little further out than I thought. And then the hole itself from here to here was 0.375. That's what I saw on this measurement right there. Okay, so that's going the 1.5 deep, 0.375 for the counter bore. Okay, so let's do the 0.375 for the counter bore first. So this is from dimensioning from here to here. This was 0.375. And then for the entire hole, so from here to here, this measurement was the 1.5, and that looks correct already. All right, let's see what else we're missing. Outer diameter shown right here is 1.25. So to measure that one, I'm going to go dimension. It looks like it's from this outer edge to the construction line, and that number should be 1.25. 1.25, enter, and I got everything connected now. The whole thing is black, constrained, looking good. Okay, hit the check mark. So now this is the shape of my smokestack. The last thing I got to do is revolve it. So I'm going to come over to the revolve tool, choose this sketch I just created. Revolve axis is going to be this line that we made that's going to rotate around. And we've got our smokestack. Again, notice here, right now it's adding to the train body. I want this to be a new part. I'll hit new. If you wanted to, you can name it the, smokestack. I'm not always good about tracking these things, but you should as much as you can. And now my last step is organizing. I'm going to put these in a folder, add selection to folder. We'll call that smokestack. Come back over here, part 3, rename that to smokestack. And finally, if I want to turn off my section view, come back over here. Notice on this drop down, turn off section view, and I've got all my parts. Looking good.